Hello everyone, what you just saw was our demo and this is our game Wick. And this is our May status update with our brand new Wick logo. So this past month has been really productive and we're really excited to show you guys what we have been working on this past month. So but first we want to talk a little bit about our social media. So in May, we kicked off our social media, and you can see our little Wick video game Twitter page there. With, we're getting close to 100 followers, which is, you know, I don't think it's too bad after 3 weeks or so. And we've also got a decent amount of traffic so far. Now, a cool thing to note that's happened in the past this week. Uh, Alpha Beta Gamer, a Twitter page, wrote an article about us and actually tweeted out to us with basically linking our playtesting link, the contact form that we showed in the last status update. They have about 57,000 followers and about 200,000 YouTube subscribers. Now, you might be asking, like, why does this matter? Well, here's the article that they wrote about us. We ended up getting almost doubling our playtesters. We got about almost 60 more playtesters that signed up since the day that this article came out, and because of that, we're almost at 200 playtesters signed up now, which allows us to increase our playtesting pool going forward. So, really excited about that. Now, on the same note of social media, we did get a really cool note this month as well. Unreal Engine called us a wicked idea. I know it's a bad pun, but it's coming from the Unreal Engine, so it's got to be pretty decent. So, May status update. This is what we showed in the last status update. And as usual, we made a couple adjustments. We made a couple priority decisions. So we have Mara reaching under and also the respawn animation that have been taking priority. And we'll talk a little bit about that coming forward. So this is everything that we got completed and the things that we did not get completed. Again, we'll be talking about all these specifics throughout the PowerPoint. And here are some of the extra things that we did get done, including a first pass of the Mara reaching under objects, the bouncing head, the Legione rework based on some feedback. We got some more Mara sounds in there as well. The wax pools, Mara noticing your wax trail, and a couple more animations for Jean and also Mara. So let's go ahead and get right into the feedback as we always do with our presentations. But feedback, we didn't necessarily get any feedback the last status update, but that's fine because we sought out our own. So we got playtesting Zoom sessions with Ron, Hez, and Rick. They all played the game with us, with the whole team into the Zoom call, and we got real-time feedback. We got to ask questions, talk about design, and they got to feel the game real-time, and we recorded all the sessions, which has been extremely helpful for us. This was like the real first time that we saw someone else play the game and give us feedback real-time, get real reaction times, and it helped a lot. We've made lots of adjustments since that time too. On the same note as feedback, this is just some of the feedback that we've gotten from the last playtest. 4 pages so far, and again, this is just some of it. We do have more, probably another 3 more pages of this feedback. Now, we don't have to listen to everything, and we know that. We are taking little bits and pieces and figuring out what actually seems like needs to be fixed or adjusted or tweaked. So that is what we're in the progress of doing right now, and we've already started that this past month. So for the May status update, we're going to be talking about feature development. We have a special announcement, playtesting pipeline, bug testing, and also our June playtest and our June commitments. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it with some of the comments that we've gotten from our playtesters. These are just some of the comments that we have received. People thought that our aesthetic was really great, and we really wanted to push our already great looking environment even further. You can see one on the top right says, great creativity, good aesthetics, good feel, good luck, I see real success for this game in the future. Really cool. We had lots of comments on our aesthetics, as I just mentioned, and we really wanted to push them forward. But, of course, you get some of these funny comments like, why isn't there a hotkey to make the candle nay nay? things that you get when remote playtesting. But again, on the same note as aesthetics, we wanted to continue to push because just get people saying that it looks great isn't good enough for us. So you probably saw in the demo our stained glass. This has been a real big piece for us and something that we've been excited and looking forward to putting into the engine since the very first brainstorming session. So basically, to make these, we started with a lot of research into stained glass. But luckily, one of our developers has a lot of experience making real stained glass and worked very closely with our 3D artists and provided them some documentation in order to help explain the stained glass effect as well so that they could create these pieces as accurately as possible. So the process started with getting ideas by focusing on general shapes, and note here that each design is based on a narrative and represents either hope, despair, or a mix of both. Stress lines are added and the design is refined. The stress lines are accurate to real stained glass, and each design can be recreated in real life. The design is put into 3D coat, and roughness and an uneven normal map is added to give depth to the design, and more color adjustments are made. This is the point where we send the asset to one of our tech artists, who happens to be the same developer who makes the stained glass in real life. Before we do that, we want to show you all the different pieces of the stained glass that we had. All these pieces, again, were world building and showing our narrative, and are chosen specifically for that reason, to flow throughout the cathedral. So again, this is the point where we send this asset to one of our tech artists. Again, this is the same tech artist who makes the stained glass in real life. So here it is in engine right now. To get it to this point, we basically put it in the Photoshop, the actual design in the Photoshop, and edit it to create the textures for our light functions in Unreal. The textures are used to make 3 light function materials per window, one for the red, green, and blue channels. 3 spotlights are placed in the scene in the exact same location, and each is given one of the light functions, hence creating our glass light effect that you can see on the floor and that you saw in our demo. Now, we were looking for other games that did something similar to what we have done with our stained glass. So we found Borderlands, Dragon Age Inquisition, Bioshock Infinite, Assassin's Creed. They all have stained glass pieces in their game. Borderlands is the only one with any sort of light on the floor, and not even Dragon Age has lighting on the floor, and that's considering the fact that stained glass is a core visual aspect in Dragon Age. The Dragon Age and Assassin's Creed stained glass could be made in real life though, but likely because they are just historical copies and not original designs. So when comparing big games like Borderlands and Assassin's Creed and Dragon Age to our game Wick, we're the only ones that put an imprint on the ground based on the colors of the window. We make glass to be accurate to how glass is made via the stress lines, and our glass can technically be made in real life, and they are original designs. But not only are they just original designs, but they help our world building in the game and our narrative as well. And it is a great way for us to add color into our level since it is so dark. Again, we really pride ourselves with production value, and this is just showing the process that we go through every time that we're making any type of art asset. Now, going back to playtesting data, where do I go? Did you ever get stuck without knowledge of where to go in the level? This was a question that we asked the playtesters. And you can see, about 50-50 of them were saying that they had a point in the playtest where they had no idea where to go. That's a problem for us. We definitely need to get that number down, and we know that. And we're working on it right now. And this brings us to the wax pools. You probably saw this in the demo right in the beginning. It probably looked like a big decal. It's not a decal. However, here are the wax pools. And wax pools are exactly what they sound like. Big pools of wax. Jean can walk on top of them and gain wax and also hide his wax trail from Mara while on top of these wax pools. Now, we want to go even further into our design considerations of how we built these wax pools. Also note that these are just in first pass state and they're about to get the art pass probably in about a week or so. So we were trying to solve a couple of design problems. One, it did not really matter that you were melting. The wax globs that we had in the game previously were not as easily tweakable to scale difficulty. Players are getting lost in the level, and there weren't enough ways to trick Mara. Now we wanted to make the wax pools function so that it could solve all four of these problems. So the wax pool solutions are: it allows us to raise the rate that Jean melts so that the player cannot just sprint through the levels. It can help balance how fast you melt, how much wax you gain, and where you are safe while playing. It also helps guide the players through the levels, which is the big point for this. The wax globs were a big point where everyone was going right to the wax globs, and we want the wax pools to do the exact same thing. And also allows for the players to hide their wax trail from Mara. Obviously, we just implemented this in the past couple weeks, and we will be playtesting these in June and be asking the exact same questions about getting lost and about their feelings on wax trail, and we'll see how that progresses now that we're going to be implementing this feature. Now, speaking of getting lost, this gate in particular ended up becoming a really big problem with players and the faculty alike. We thought it would be very intuitive for the player to be like, hey, I'm a small candle, I can fit through those little holes in the gate. Well, here's Ron proving us wrong.
All right. Well, I guess I'm supposed to continue going right. Yeah. So remember that because like that table had the invisible collision box where I couldn't go under the table. I
You
actually
expect
assumed
this.
that that would be the case with this.
Yeah.
Right. So it's important to recognize that I assumed there'd be an invisible wall with this just because this wasn't permissible. So
So the collisions that have been reworked all over the level to help alleviate this. But we had other players who did this as well, so we wanted to make it extremely obvious to the player that, and guide them through the level. So with the gate, here is our gate asset that we started with. As we've done in the past, we have edited these base assets and fit them for gameplay functions. So here are the other two versions of the gate to help guide the player because there is something out of the ordinary. It is not just a consistent gate anymore. And players usually go towards these types of things, and it'll be more recognizable to the player to be like, hey, I can go right through this. So, more playtester feedback. Playtester0007 said, stealth games are kinda tough. For me, the archetype stealth game is Metal Gear. One thing those games have is extreme clarity about when you're in cover and when not, mainly by the fact that you stick to the walls plus your solution radar. Wick doesn't really have that yet. Cover feels squishy. Now, the big thing that we stuck on in this comment was one thing those games have is extreme clarity about when you're in cover and when you're not. Now, to accomplish this, we had to look at some games and other stealth games that did accomplish this correctly. And we gravitated more towards Assassin's Creed instead of Metal Gear. So Assassin's Creed has this thing where you can see the player walks into the crowd and they turn monochromatic when they are sitting with the crowd stealthed. Well, we thought this was pretty cool and something that would work really well in our game and work with the horror. So we took it a step further, and you probably saw this in the demo already. However, now every time John Wick goes underneath a hidey hole, we vignette the screen and we desaturate the midtones in the game. However, the high tones stay the same and stay saturated. This way, certain VFX and other colors in the game, such as Mara's VFX that follows her, will always still be seen, allowing the player to always know where Mara is at all times. Another note on the wax dropping trail. It wasn't clear how that was being followed. It never really felt like she was following my wax trail, just like she was walking towards me. more playtester feedback, specifically on the wax trail and Mara falling the wax trail because they never knew when she was. So Mara noticing your wax trail has been a big thing for us as well. A lot of people that we've been talking with have been saying that we need UI in our game. And we want to turn everyone's attention back to Little Nightmares. And everyone here knows that since the very first presentation, we've used Little Nightmares as the main cornerstone of this game to look back on. Every time we have a new design decision or whatever, we always say, how does Little Nightmares accomplish this? What are the problems that they're solving and how are they doing this? They don't have any UI in their game, and we think that we can accomplish the exact same thing in ours. We want to use John Wick as a diegetic UI source. We want his flame to flicker when he's about to die. We want his flame to grow and shrink when he's scared or being alerted. We want to use the wax trail that drips off of Jean as well. And speaking of that, that is exactly what we're doing for letting Mara tell to the player that she's following the wax trail. Again, this was in the demo that you guys just saw. And I'll go back and play it again. So what's happening here is Mara's noticing the wax that Jean is dropping and burning it up and basically taking the emissive off of the wax trail so that it's harder to see, but is basically indicating to the player that Mara has seen these wax nodes and that he better run and hide. So on the same trail, no pun intended, as the wax nodes, we had another gameplay problem along with the trail. And that was to begin with that your trail is not relevant right now. Mara can follow your trail, but nothing happens at the end of the trail. Because mostly, wax trails will inevitably lead to a hidey hole where Jean has complete immunity from Mara, nullifying the scary effect of her hunting you. So we had to come up with a new solution, and that is the Mara reaching under. And you probably heard us mention this, and you probably saw this in the demo. Now, Mara will follow Jean's wax trail to a hidey hole, and Mara will then grab underneath the hidey hole and hopes to snag Jean. This will now give consequence when she actually follows the wax trail to a hidey hole. This will not be in every hidey hole though, because we've made the feature so that the LDs can choose which objects they want Mara to reach under, and which ones she will not. This way also allows us to scale difficulty however needed in each different area of the game. And now we want to show you Mara reaching under in isolation. You can probably see her reach under and swipe around and try to grab her, try to grab Jean, and we think it definitely hits that scary factor even more, and it's definitely making the game slightly harder. So, for the May status update, you probably saw that the respawn animation was in red. Well, we want to address that now and why. Mainly because the Mara reaching animation was added to our list. So, it added another animation to our list that was not initially there already. And the big thing for this is that we did not have access to the mocap studio to make this animation, which means we have to hand key it, which is perfectly fine because our animators are really good and can do that no problem. However, it's hard to have two characters, Mara and Jean, both with almost all of their animations all mocap, and then to hand key an animation to fit and work with the mocap animation, and not make it seem like it's out of place. So we've spent extra time with this Mara reaching animation to make sure that it looks just as good as the mocap animation. And to do this, basically our animators are working with Jonathan, the animation professor, to get this as close to perfect as possible. And what you're seeing here is Jonathan's drawovers on top of the first pass of the Mara reaching. This Mara reaching animation was also the priority over the respawn, mainly because there was multiple dependencies with this. Programmers needed the reaching under animation to begin proxying out the functionality and how it was actually going to grab Jean from underneath the bench and kill him. It also added around about 30 hours of animation to our pipeline, and that is why we were not able to get the respawn animation in for this status update. However, the respawn animation is being worked on as of this week and will be ready for June. So now we're going to go ahead and switch gears a little bit and move to our Studio Whip announcement. We've been really excited to show this off for everyone, and the faculty probably already know what this is since they playtested the game, hopefully. And that is that Studio Whip is announcing their publication to Steam. So Wick will be on Steam by the end of our development cycle. Here is the beta store site, and we'll be preparing the Steam store during our development. We are also using what we've got now as a way to deliver builds to the playtesters and the faculty, all using Steam. We are accomplishing this by using Steam keys that we apply for, and they give us, up to 200 keys at a time. And then we can give those out to whoever wants to play the game. Now, to note here, we give our playtesters option to whether play on Steam if they want, or to go off of Google Drive. Now, almost 75% of the playtesters are using Steam to playtest the game, which is awesome. It's really great. It gets us excited about it. They get to see our page more often. We get more publicity that way as well. It's also really cool to note that we are building for both Windows and Mac right now as well. And both of those options are in the Google Drive build and also in the Steam build. Now, moving to playtesting here. This is what we showed at the last status update, with a May 18th playtest delivery date. With about 35 people, more than 50% of them will be ones that game dev. We'll be testing distance as Jean, player locomotion, action block specific questions. But in reality, this was a big test for us. Not many people at FIA have, if any, have done remote playtesting before. And we needed to find out, will remote playtesters actually play the game? Or will they just say they will and then not actually give us any feedback? We needed to develop our remote playtesting pipeline as well. And how do we ensure that they can make it through the entire game, since we're not going to be there to help them if they need it? Now, the big thing for us is this as well. We asked them, did you make it to the thank you for playing screen at the end of our playtesting build? And almost 95% of the people who played said that they made it to the end. I think this is only one person right now that has not, which is awesome. This was really big for us, and we'll talk about how we did that coming up here. So, when we started gathering playtesters for our remote playtesting of the game, we knew from the beginning that there was no guarantee that there would even be people to play the game and also take our survey. Because of this, we put multiple things into place to help alleviate this, as well as knowing that the first playtest could give less data than we expected. So now I'm going to talk about a lot of the things that we did to help ensure that we made this as foolproof as possible, starting with Mail Meteor. It's just a mail merge function, the same thing that you can do in Outlook and Excel, but this works with Google Sheets with us. And it's really cool because when we send out the build and send out everyone's individual Steam keys and also their playtester ID, this little cell, these cells come up where we can actually see who has clicked the email, who has opened the email, and who is basically interacting with the email that we sent them. What we're doing with this now is, if we're going to have repeat playtesters, they will not be the ones who just say email sent and they didn't do anything and interact with us. Because we're not going to waste our Steam keys, we're not going to waste their time with people who signed up and aren't going to play the game and give us feedback. There's not enough time for that, and we need to get as much data as we possibly need, as fast as we need. So, for the pipeline on how we prep the build, here is our per-force branching system and setup that we have currently on our team. we have 3 branches that the entire dev team works on: the blueprints branch, the level design branch, and also the art branch. These all work with the dev branch. They go back and forth. The team works on stuff in the branches, and then we push everything up to the dev branch. We check everything, and the dev branch is where we know there's going to be bugs. Bugs live in the dev branch, we know. We test for bugs, we look for bugs, and we try to squash as many as we possibly can in the dev branch, and to basically make a clean build until the next, 10 new things get pushed up there, and then there's more bugs. But we have the main branch above the dev branch. Nothing for the dev branch makes it to the main branch unless it is 100% clean, or what we consider 100% clean. Because as I'm learning in game development, very rarely do you have a perfectly clean build. But in the main branch, we have a clean build. We have the Steam branch coming off the main branch, and we also have the playtesting branch isolated from the rest of the team. This allows us to add playtesting specific features into the playtest build that will not affect the gameplay or the development of the game for the rest of the team, such as adding text or anything else along those lines for the tutorialization until that's implemented. So we content locked the playtest build 4 days before we shipped it off. So this was the Friday before we shipped out on Monday. We get everything merged into our dev branch. We check for bugs and fix known bugs for a quote-unquote clean build. We merge everything up to the main branch and then to our isolated playtesting branch. And then we implemented our playtesting replay system that we showed off at the last status update. And also the UI for the players to input their playtesting ID and to move through and give us the information that we needed to assign it to the right person. We also implemented playtesting specific gameplay features, such as the text for tutorialization. We weren't testing tutorialization in this playtest, so we added some text in there to explain the game and explain the controls to the player. We also had a feature to make sure that they made it through all the way through all the different areas of the game, which was basically that when they died multiple times at one candelabra, they would move to the next candelabra automatically, so no player would get stuck in the same area over and over again and get frustrated and close the game. Because we're trying to get feedback on the entire game when we did this playtest, and we're not trying to playtest for difficulty right now. We combined everything up into a completed build, and then we prepared the build in Google Drive and also Steam, again for both Windows and Mac OS. So that whole pipeline that I just talked about does not even include the email prep, the survey creation, and that was a big chunk of that as well. And that's all happening in tandem. So now this is a pretty big pipeline. We had multiple people test this entire pipeline from the email that the playtesters would get to the end survey. We had everyone do this, and we had recorded our family and friends who had never played the game. We would just send them the email and say, all right, good luck, go do it, and we'll see if we could actually go from the email to playing the game to typing your Steam code to doing the survey and submitting and being done. And we ended up getting some really cool feedback from our family and friends who played before we even sent out the build to the playtesters, such as this.
Let's get the crap out of me. If you were going for a jump scare, you definitely got me there.
So that was really funny. But in the exact same jump scare moment that we had, that you probably saw in the demo and hopefully jumped just a little bit, this is probably our team's favorite video ever of anyone playing our game.
Oh, that wax. Mmm. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. My heart just jumped. Take a breather here for a second while my wax drips.
For us, that meant a lot. Everyone knows how critical Tom is of our game to make sure that we have the best game we possibly can make. And to see him, for us to scare him like that meant a lot in our heart. So we're really happy that we have that now, and Tom will probably never see the end of that video. But this whole process was basically to ensure that no playtester would get stuck in an area or confused by our documentation. And speaking of our playtesting pipeline, we'll talk about playtesting number 2, which is our big June playtest. So we're targeting June 15th to ship to the playtesters for the June playtest, number 2. This time we're going to be doing about 70 people from our playtesting pool. Because we've added so many more playtesters from that article, we can increase our pool numbers and hopefully get more data. Because obviously we're not going to expect all 70 to play the game anymore, but probably maybe about 40 of them will play the game, and that'll help us out quite a bit. Less than 50% of these people will be ones with game dev experience, and the goal of this is to test gameplay. We'll be testing the Legione, the Mara, the player mechanics, and also the melting mechanics. All 4 of these components work in tandem and are all interconnected in the tech. So this is why we're testing them all together. It only makes sense, because if we tweak one thing, it's going to affect the AI or it's going to affect the player mechanics. So everything here works in tandem, and we're going to be playtesting all of these features together on June 15th. Another thing to note is bug testing. We will have a dev key that can be pressed to report bugs directly to the team. They'll be sent to Zoho Bug Tracker directly from the build and engine. They can just hit like the B button, a little prompt's going to come up, they can type any description that they need, hit enter, and it'll send it over to Zoho Bug Tracker. This gives a description of the bug and a link to the playtester file inside of the Zoho task as well. We're really excited about this. We plan on having a bug testing session this month. We have some plans in the works right now that we just couldn't announce just yet, but hopefully in June we'll be able to shine some light on what we were planning the past couple weeks. So alright, our June status update commitments. Big things to note here is we're going to be completing the Mara reaching under, the completed head bouncing, a completed wax pull, and also a completed attack. We're getting really close to alpha as a team, and we really think by June 15th, when we hit that first that big build for the playtest, we'll be really close, if not at alpha. We'll also have some bug testing next month. We'll be reworking action blocks based on feedback, and we'll be finishing the tutorialization inside the rooms. Adding some jingles for Mara and Jean for when they interact with different objects or things happen to them in the world. And of course, some more Jean animations. We're looking at doing a Jean flame sizzle when he walks under different objects as well. We're starting to get into the polish phase where we get to do the things that we were, if we have time, we can do them. We're getting to that point now. So I know the team's excited, and I know I'm really excited. And we'll see you guys next month. Thank you.